E3 2004. Anyone who was anybody in the video games industry was over there, and in the middle of it all, there was this little known company called Epic Games revealing their newest gameplay engine, that being Unreal 3. However, in the middle of this tech demo, there was a peculiar looking monster that they didn't really draw any attention to, but we'll soon all come to know what it truly was. Back at the offices in Raleigh, the game designers Lee Perry and Cliff Bleszinski were looking at a game that didn't quite take off but had some very nice mechanics. This game was Kill Switch, having a really innovative cover fire mechanic where a player could take cover behind a wall or a barrier and fire blindly at enemies while being secure from their fire. Resident Evil 4 had also recently been released, and the two decided to create a game with the over-the-shoulder perspective of Resident Evil, utilizing the cover fire mechanic from Kill Switch. Later on in development, Cliff Bleszinski was also pondering the recently started war in Iraq, where everybody knew the true reason of the war, and he decided that his own war game needed a reason as well. So he came up with the resource called Immersion, a glowing fluid that the humans could fight over. The designers at Epic also realized how most fighting shooting games had this sort of combat dance where you would shoot your weapon, you would reload, you would move around, you would shoot your weapon again. They wanted players to be more engaged than simply performing in the dance. While sitting down and playing Counter-Strike one day, Cliff Bleszinski noticed how reloading in the game was almost non-existing. He was really pissed off by how fast the guns reloaded. It almost made no difference to the gameplay at all. That's when he came up with the idea of active reload, basically allowing players to take part in the reloading process. What they did was have a little prompt that would come up when players wanted to reload, and if you timed it correctly, your reload could give you extra ammo or even give you deadlier bullets, and that way players would be more engaged with the reloading mechanic, and the gameplay dance would be more about taking cover, taking part in active reload, and then also figuring out how you would proceed in combat rather than doing the simple combat dance that they had seen in games like Counter-Strike before. One day, while searching for trademarks, one of their designers came up with the idea of Gears of War, where each war was fought by soldiers who all participated as cogs in a machine. And so the tagline and the name was also born, Gears of War, lubricated by the blood of soldiers. Development was very much underway when GDC 2005 rolled around, and Epic Games was demoing their Unreal Engine again at GDC, but this time there were a lot of elements of Gears hidden in this demo. It wasn't really named or mentioned, but it did cause a lot of hype and a lot of buzz, especially drawing a lot of attention to the engine. In that same year in November, Halo 2 had just released and had brought a lot of notoriety to Microsoft's game system, the Xbox. Microsoft was looking to launch their new iteration of the Xbox 360, with a lot of bang, and they wanted something that could truly showcase all that the Xbox 360 had to offer. In the same time, back at the office, Cliff Bleszinski was thinking about the main enemies for Gears of War, and they figured out that the main enemies could be these underground locusts that had always been there, but this time they had been mutated by the Immersion resource and were now in an unending war against the humans. The day the locusts first attacked would be called Emergence Day, and with a blink of an eye, we were at the E3 Xbox 360 reveal alongside a Gears demo, and this is where the public truly got to know the power of the Xbox and the powers of Gears of War. The first potential mega hit for the Xbox 360 is what IGN called it. Among the audience of the demo were two peculiar Dan Weiss and David Bianoff, who would later go on to adapt Game of Thrones for HBO. Microsoft knew that they had something big on their hands, and they assigned MTV to make a documentary called Gears of War Race to E3, which would highlight all the production that was taking place on the game. For E3 2005, Epic Games also decided to demo the game live in the Grauman Chinese Theater before E3. While walking up to the theater, Cliff Bleszinski ran into Bill Gates, and after getting through their security, he assured Bill Gates that they were working really hard on the game, and with just a smile on his face, Bill Gates replied with, Good. Now that's a badass move. Microsoft decided for the release date to be November 7, 2006 and titled it Emergence Day, alongside a commercial for Gears of War with the music of Mad World playing in the background.
Hard to take when people run in circles. It's a very, very mad
and November couldn't come by soon enough, and as midnight hit on November 7th, Epic Games' Gears of War became the fastest selling Xbox 360 game to date, and at the time it also became the fastest selling new IP, only being taken over by Assassin's Creed a few months later. And that's how Epic Games became a mainstay in the games industry, having shipped one of the biggest games of the decade and now only moving on to bigger, better, and more badass things.